Hardly bears thinking about that it's been nearly 4 years, back in 2019, when we first reviewed the Audi e-tron, Audi's large executive all-electric SUV. And to be fair, we did quite like it. It looked nice, it was relatively decent to drive, it offered good refinement, and it was really, really spacious, as well as offering Audi's legendary build quality. But it wasn't without its flaws. I mean, its efficiency was, well, poor, to put it politely. It never delivered the range that was promised, and well, it wasn't the cheapest car out there either. Now, since then, we've obviously driven the e-tron in its different other guises as well, so the Sportback, and we've also driven the e-tron S, and they never really ignited the fire in us that we thought that an Audi e-tron really should. It's not that Audi can't make a good electric car, because we like the Q4 e-tron and the e-tron GT as well. Sensational. It's just that the big e-tron just always fell a bit, well, short. But in some ways, it didn't really matter, because they would sell anyway, because back then there wasn't a huge amount to compete with it. I mean, there was only really the Jaguar I-Pace. Even Mercedes hadn't brought out the EQC at that point. But as we've always said at AutoEV, the electric car market shifts, and it shifts fast. And since then, there has been an absolute deluge of luxury premium all-electric SUVs from rivals such as BMW, Genesis, Lexus, even Hyundai and Kia are about to get in on the act as well. And Audi can't afford to sit still for too long. So this is what they've given us, and this is not an e-tron. It's called something different. A new name for a new class leader? Time to find out. Welcome to this week's road test review. Welcome to the new Audi Q8 e-tron, and as always, welcome to AutoEV. Now, before we go on to this week's road test review of the new Audi Q8 e-tron, it is of course that time when I'm going to ask you to make sure that you are subscribed to the AutoEV channel, and then once you've done that, press the little bell button that's down below, because then that way you'll be notified of when our next video goes live. After you've watched the video, if you enjoy it, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and please remember, leave us your comments down below as well. Let me know your thoughts on the cars that we review, such as the new Audi Q8 e-tron, and of course on the channel as a whole. Now, as I said, the things have changed since Audi first launched the e-tron back in 2018. Back then, as I say, it was really just the Jaguar I-Pace which was there to compete with, but we've seen new cars arrive from Mercedes-Benz, from BMW with the iX, and of course there's going to be a lot more coming onto the market. And as I say, you've got a new brand such as Genesis to compete with. Lexus, despite still purveying sort of like hybrids, they're going to really make a big move towards electric as well with some of their new models. And of course we've got things such as Land Rover, who no doubt will be about to launch into the world of electric. We know Jaguar is regrouping and doing different things, and of course Porsche and Maserati even are getting in the game with their new Macan, and of course the Grecale. But as you can see, the Q8 e-tron looks very much like the e-tron. Audi seem to have adopted a more kind of evolutionary rather than revolutionary approach to updating their largest SUV. So the question remains is, with all this new competition that's there and about to arrive, have they done enough, and have they addressed the things that we were, well, shall we say, not so keen on about the old car? But before we get on, let's take a quick snapshot and find out what the Audi Q8 e-tron is all about. So the big change is obviously it's gained the new Q8 prefix, because Audi's position will be now that anything with an even number will be electric and anything with an odd number will be piston powered, despite the fact there is currently a Q8 with an internal combustion engine that doesn't really share much with this car. It is their largest electric SUV offering, and it's available in both the standard SUV and Sportback body styles, just as before. And like before, it comes in two battery sizes which have increased in size. You either have an 89 kilowatt hour one in the 50 models, or a 106 kilowatt hour one in the 55 models, and these will deliver a WLTP range of between 261 miles and 330 miles, depending on which one you go for. You can also have a performance-focused SQ8 e-tron, which is available with over 500 brake horsepower. And the price goes from just under £70,000 to over £114,000, depending on the choice of specification and body style. So it would be fair to say that this seems a little bit more of a sort of mild facelift rather than a completely new car. And given what I've just said about the competition coming thick and fast, is it going to be enough to keep the Audi competitive? Well, the only way that we're going to find out is by putting it through the actual road test that car buyers are trusting when it comes to choosing their next electric car. And that's the AutoEV one. Now, if there was one area of the Audi that we felt probably didn't need changing too much, it was the way that it looked. It's a handsome car. It's very typical Audi. And as I say, there are some changes to this car from the previous one, but they're very, very small. As I say, let's call it, as I say, a mild facelift rather than a brand new car, despite the new nomenclature. So they've kept well alone when it comes to the way that the car looks by just changing a few little bits and pieces around it, and some of them are really quite welcome. For instance, the new grille, obviously, which isn't a grille. Well, I say that, there is cooling here, but I was never a great lover of that kind of silverized bit at the front of the last car, whereas this is body colour and it's got just nice little slats in it, and it's managed to retain the sort of Audi grille shape without needing to be a big open grille, which is quite nice. Obviously you've got cooling down at the bottom as well here, but here's the other trick thing. There's a lot of aero at work on this car as well. So not only does that help with cooling, there's also a duct in there that then forces the air underneath the car, because also a big SUV, well, they need to be a bit more aerodynamically efficient if they're going to get better range, and that's one place where Audi really needed to concentrate on. So by making the car slip through the air a bit better, hopefully along with the bigger battery and changes to the motor, it will increase the efficiency and the range. But we'll talk about that later. You've got this new Audi badge as well, which I'm not sure about, if I'm honest with you. I don't quite see, there's a big thing going for two-dimensional badges at the moment, which this one is. It's black with grey rings around it, but it also hides a lot of the front tech, so sensors and cameras and such thing, radar for the guided cruise control. That's all tucked up in there as well, so that's quite neat. I like that. Digital matrix LED headlights, they're now standard as well. So again, used to be an option, they're now standard. And as I say, the aero work on the car, again, is really improving. So you've got this air curtains that come in here that take the airflow around there and then shoot them around the side of the car across the alloy wheels. And there's another thing that's particularly pleased about, although I don't quite know why, is that underneath here you've got little flaps, which are basically wheel spoilers. They used to be called dive planes when I was selling cars, and there was quite a few cars used to have them, so not quite sure why Audi are making such a big fuss about that. But anyway, as I say, a big concentration on keeping the airflow smooth around the car, which is going to help with the efficiency and obviously hopefully increase the range. The other big change is there's now a sort of light bar underneath the top of the grille there, which is quite nice. It gives it quite a nice kind of face at night almost when the lights are on. So as well as your daytime running lights there, there's also a nice little kind of eerie glow comes from underneath there, which I quite like. But as I say, the way the car looked was not really an area that Audi really needed to change an awful lot. And it's much the same round the side. As I say, there's really, I don't think you could really tell the difference, bar maybe some new alloy wheel styles and some more kind of nice, I don't know, some colour detailing you get. Like for instance, you know, the wheel arches are now kind of colour coded on this car as well. This particular nice colour, I have to say, is metallic grey. It looks like a solid grey, but it's not. When the sun hits it, it's got a really nice sparkle to it. I really do like this one. Anyway, this car is a launch edition. We'll go through trim levels and the pricing. So this is a launch edition car, which seems to be a very popular nomenclature that people give new cars when they come out, and they throw loads of kit on it and call it launch edition. But there are 4 different trim levels normally. And this one's sitting on 21-inch wheels. Obviously there are smaller wheels available. As I say, I don't normally like black alloys, but again, with this kind of colour, it's all right. This is the Sportback, as you can see. Now obviously, as I said, you can get the car as the standard SUV body style as well, so you can, you know, you choose your poison in that sense. Personally, I'm not a lover of these coupe SUVs, but I get they're popular and people do kind of like them. Virtual door mirrors, yeah, we'll talk about them or driving them. That's not something I would personally urge you to pick, if I'm being honest with you. Audi, they've now got the kind of the sort of like the badging of the model here now. So on the B pillar you've got Audi and then Q8 Sportback e-tron Quattro. Bit of an odd place to put it, but there you go. Usual kind of integrated roof rails, which is quite nice. It's got quite a nice stance to it, you know, and as I say, it's that kind of typical kind of neat kind of Audi design. Obviously you've got your charging flaps where you expect to find them on an e-tron, sort of like behind the front wheel arch, and obviously there's one on either side as well. We'll talk about that when it comes to the charging section. But yeah, other than that, Nice little kind of integrated rear kind of boot spoiler, but yeah, just pretty much the same as what went before, really. Which also means there's not a huge amount different at the back either. You know, you've got a slightly different kind of light bar with LED taillights in it. Again, the new kind of two-dimensional Audi logo with the kind of 4 rings of English start there. New badging, you obviously got your Q8 badge there. e-tron script in the back, although I think that was on the last car as well, if I remember correctly. Anyway, either way, I think this is slightly redesigned as well, again, just to kind of help the airflow around the car, but yeah, it's sort of like kind of same as before. So, have Audi done the right thing by taking this kind of, as I say, evolutionary approach to the largest SUV offering on the e-tron range? Would you have liked to have seen them do something just a little bit more different, a little bit more drastic? Because obviously, as we know, this is going to compete with things like the BMW iX. Now, love it or loathe it, that does make a bit of a statement. It looks very, very modern. As much as I quite like the style of the Audi, for a new car, it feels a little bit like an old one. But what do you think? Let us know in the comments down below. Now, if there's one area that has changed, it's boot space. And it's got smaller, believe it or not. It's dropped by about 90 litres. Now, there's a reason for that, because there's a different battery and different motors and things in the car. But you're going to drop on a Sportback to 528 litres. If it's the full SUV you've got, it's 569 litres now. Now, the car comes with the standard 40-20-40 split on the rear seat, and if you knock all those down, then obviously you're going to increase the luggage space up to just over 1,500 litres on the Sportback and just over 1,600 on the big SUV. But on saying all of that, it's not exactly lacking in space back here, because as you can see, the 4 AutoEV suitcases fit with plenty of room to spare. In fact, there's even more space here where you could get extra bags, soft bags in there, or even maybe even a push chair as well. There's a small amount of underfloor storage too, which is quite handy. And just talking about those rear seats, I prefer that 40-20-40 split, because it does mean then if you're carrying a longer load, you can still get 2 rear passengers in with comfort and just knock down the centre bit and you can get the long load through. Anyway, as I say, look, you've got underfloor storage there as well, which is the luggage net and the first aid kit and things, and actually you could put bags in there as well. There's plenty of room there, and it's a nice usable size. It's nice and squared off. There's a little bit of kind of luggage nets at the side there for just dropping smaller items in, and you get these nice chromed hooks there. You've also got a nice rigid parcel shelf as well for security purposes, although obviously when you take that off, you're going to need to kind of store that somewhere if you need the extra height. But on the whole, it's bigger than a BMW iX, even in this Sportback, guys, although as I say, it's slightly smaller than a Jaguar I-Pace, but it's certainly not going to be disappointing. And of course, there is more room up at the front as well. There you go. There's your cable storage bag up there. Really neat solution. It was on the last e-tron, they've kept it in this one. I really like that. Well done, Audi. That's really thoughtful. Now, rear space, well, that really hasn't changed either. And again, it's not exactly an area that was lacking in the last car. Now, the seat setup for me, 5'7", 5'8". I really should find out for definite which one I am. But I've got plenty of room here, absolutely plenty of room. There's loads of lounging space, bags and bags and bags of knee room. Headroom's absolutely fine for me, because even though it's got this panoramic glass sunroof, it is scooped out at the back here. Now, obviously on the Sportback, the body style, anybody sort of like over the kind of 6 foot mark, they're probably going to be feeling it pinch here. But then of course you've got the added benefit, you could always go for the big SUV style with the longer roofline, so it doesn't quite slope down at the back. So, you know, all is not lost. What else? Well, you'll certainly get 3 across. There's no issue with that. It is a big car. And oddly enough, for a car that's not really based on a bespoke EV platform, it's a weird platform that this car sits on, because there's various other combustion engine cars that kind of use bits of it as well. You do have a relatively flat floor. There's a tiny little bit of a bump there, but it's not bad. It's certainly not going to, you know, sort of like encroach into the middle person's feet. The only thing I would say is that rear of the centre console protrudes out a little bit, because this is where the rear climate control screen is. That's the only thing that might just kind of catch them on the shins. But otherwise, I don't think there's going to be a problem back here at all with 3. ISOFIX points, yeah, they're brilliant to get to. You just flip up the little covers and they're nice and easy to get to. You've got some decent kind of storage as well. You've got two cup holders here. You've got a small kind of storage bin there, albeit not huge. You've got map pockets in the backs of the seats, and you've got a really deep door bins as well that will take a really big water bottle for your kids in the back. Connectivity, well, yeah, there's a 12-volt socket down there and 2 USB-C ports as well. So yeah, there's plenty to be getting on with there. Doesn't quite have the kind of big, kind of luxurious, kind of lounging space that you feel in the iX from BMW, but in terms of space, you are not going to feel tight at all in the back here. This is a good space for a family car. Now, you jump up here into the driving seat, and you really are going to have to question whether or not I've made a massive error here, and actually what I have is the old e-tron, and this is what we're reviewing again. But it's not. This is exactly, well, pretty much exactly the same as what we've had with the e-tron up until now. And that is a cabin that feels like a guy's come along with a big lump of granite and a hammer and chisel and made a car interior out of it. Because everything is just rock solid. It is typical Audi. Everything you touch just feels like it's going to last an absolute millennium. And it's good, however, there are elements that aren't quite so good now, and I will talk about that in a second. But let's just go over the basics again. Audi have split the sort of like the driver environment effectively into 3 screens. So you've got your Audi virtual cockpit here, and it is one of the best in the business in some respects because you can configure this so much. On the steering wheel here, you can have big dials, you can have small dials. You can change the view to have, you know, sort of like whatever it wants to display in the centre there. If you want it to have your media in there or your telephone, you can. If you want your navigation in there, you can. If you want your navigation map, but with big dials, you can have that too. So there's a huge amount of configuration that you get, and I don't think you'd ever find something or get to a situation you're saying, well, that's not quite what I want, because there's so much you can change of it, and it's very clear and it's very concise and it's very easy to read in some respects, despite there being a lot of information there, because it's very crisp. The graphics are relatively good, the map graphics are okay, but you know, the fonts they use and the lettering that they use and everything is relatively easy to read at a glance. So that's good. So that's your virtual cockpit there. You move across here and obviously you've got your central infotainment system, and then this is all this does, it just controls that. So again, you go into your home menu, you've got radio, media, telephone, navigation, car settings, and you just scroll through to find the ones that you want, and then you sort of like just click on it, and if you click on it, you get that lovely little bit of haptic feedback, which I absolutely love about Audi. You just know you've touched something when you're doing it. So you swipe and you want something, you click, and it feels like you've done it. It feels like you've pressed something, which is the best way on a screen, because although screens are now commonplace across all cars, some of them just don't, you're always taking your eye off the road to know if you've touched something or not. Not in the Audi. You always know that you've actually, I can hear the click, I've done that. So that's good. It also has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And the first, which is brilliant, I love the fact that it's wireless because I don't have to worry about cables being across the console and stuff. The only thing I will say about the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, this screen now does feel a little bit small in comparison with a lot of the competition that's out there. And again, on sort of like a premium SUV, whilst I'm not sitting here saying that it, you know, that I don't like it, it does feel a little bit small. It feels like a screen that comes from a smaller hatchback rather than a big premium SUV. So, you know, sort of like trying to find things when you've got sort of like, you know, the CarPlay on and things like that, the icons are just that little bit smaller. So it's not ideal, it's not perfect, and I'd quite like to have seen them maybe move the game on there. The third screen is your climate control. So again, a nice thing, the fact that you don't have to go in here to use it, it's there and it's always on, and it doesn't change. That's it, this is what it is. You can sort of like turn that display off from there if you don't want that display on, but this is on if the car's on. So you adjust your temperature at the side here, and then your fan speed in the centre, obviously, and you can do it obviously on either side, and then you get heated seats as well, which you just, they're a click away. So it's always there, it's really nice and easy to use. And then just below that, there are some other buttons. So the heated rear screen, and again, it's got that click to it, you know, maximum defrost for front screen, hazards, click, you know, sort of like dynamic stability control off, and then the drive select button there. Brilliant. It really works well, I have to say. But my only bugbear is that's now starting to feel a little bit old-fashioned in comparison with other cars, such as BMW with its nice big new Generation 8 operating system, and the new Mercedes-Benz, the MBUX system you get in their new EQE and EQS ranges. But otherwise, its functionality works. There's again some physical buttons grouped down here. So this is the one I really do like. You've got a physical volume rotary dial there for turning the radio up, and obviously as well you've got a thumb wheel on the steering wheel. Steering wheel's really nice, pleasingly round for an Audi. Not really even a flat bottom on it. Nice, nice girth round it. So it's not a big thick rim like a BMW. It's got a really nice feel to it, and obviously the perforated kind of leather and the red stitch, which is a little bit kind of old hat now. However, I have to say, to hold the wheel is very, very comfortable. And they have eschewed Volkswagen's relentless push for touch-sensitive buttons that has physical buttons on the steering wheel. So you physically got to press them, and I like that. And as I say, little thumb wheels for your volume control, or for adjusting, say, the scale of the map there, or whatever's in the centre there. So kudos Audi, brilliant. It's just enough, I like that. Brake regen paddles behind the steering wheel. We'll talk about brake regen when we're driving. And then your normal nice Audi column stocks, they just have that nice kind of feel to them. They feel really good and tactile. The cruise control one is on a third stock just down there. And then over here we've got other little ancillary buttons such as rear fog lights, front fog lights, and then your light switch there. Centre console area here, it retains this ledge for the heel of your hand, so when you're using the screen you just put your heel of your hand there and use that. That's brilliant. And then this kind of trigger of the transmission lever if you want, so you pull it back for drive or for sport, push it forward for reverse, and push the end of it in for park. Brilliant, love that, really simple to use. An electronic parking brake. You got some little buttons in front of that there, so for the parking cameras, parking assist, and the other one is for, I can't remember now, it takes you through the car drive settings as well, sorry. So that's what that one does. Storage is okay. It's okay. You've got this open kind of centre console. You've got the wireless phone charger is vertical. So you've got to clip your phone in down the side there. There's like a little kind of clip that it clips into. And then to the side of that, there is a storage tray where you can have cup holders. Now, it will take my water bottle, but it will not take my coffee flask. It doesn't sit in there. That's too big. However, there is a there's a cutout in the door pocket that'll take my bigger coffee flask. So again, can't criticise that. So I can actually still have my two with me, much like I said with the Polestar last week, and they remain really easy to get. If you don't want it as a cup holder, you can clip them away and just use it as a storage tray. This lifts up and you've got sort of like extra storage down in there, but there's nothing, the console here is filled in, so there's no storage underneath this bit here. So again, where you've got that nice kind of big open kind of cockpit feel of the BMW iX, you do feel a bit more hemmed in the Audi. Now you might think that's a bit more of a sportier drive, and maybe that's why it feels, but it just feels just a tiny bit, and I mean this with the most respect to Audi, it's starting to feel its age a little bit in here. And it's only because others have moved the game on so much, rather than, there's nothing wrong with the way it works, but it just, as I say, if you jump from this into an iX feels like next generation on. It's a bit like going from, let's say, an iPhone 6 to an iPhone 14. There's nothing wrong with an iPhone 6. It's still a phone. It still does a lot of things you need it to do, but it's not a 14. It's not got the better camera. It's not got the better functionality and stuff like that. So that's kind of where I'm getting at with this. It's not ideal, if I'm being honest with you. It's all right. Right, other things that I do not like at all. Do not, and I mean this, pick these digital door mirrors, whatever they're called. These are rubbish. I have no idea why Audi are persisting with these. Now, I've got a real love or hate relationship with digital door mirrors. On a Honda E, they're brilliant because the camera's positioned halfway down the door panel and the screen is up here where you expect to find a mirror. And it's a little bit similar to the Hyundai, and then Kia are going to start offering it as well. They've got the stocks like Audi, but they've got a big screen up here where you can see it. These are the Audi screens. They are tiny. They are absolutely tiny, and then you can adjust them round, but my eyes don't focus in on them enough at the time. So when you're driving, your eye still goes to the camera pod on the door, and then you look at that, and the image is not big enough and it's not clear enough. These are rubbish. Audi, stop offering them. They're absolutely awful, or redo them, because I just don't like them. I'm old-fashioned. My dad taught me to drive a car. He taught me to reverse using the door mirrors, and I struggle getting my perspective. Maybe it's my eyes. I struggle getting perspective on these things. They're awful. I don't like them at all. So there you go. Don't choose them. Other than that, the driving position is excellent. Real straight ahead. You've got this nice kind of sport. This has got the kind of S-line sport seats on it. It's got this lovely kind of, I think they call it Dynamica fabric in the centre, which kind of holds you nice. It doesn't feel luxurious, but it feels good, if that makes sense. You know, it's for a sporty car, or one that has sporting pretensions. That is a nice material. As I say, it kind of grips you. You don't slide around in the seat. You get good support down the side. The squabs are long enough. However, you can extend them manually out, which I do like. And then obviously you get good shoulder support and a decent head restraint. The wheel's pleasingly in front of you, and I see you've got a good range of adjustment on it. Headroom's fine for me. Taller drivers, you're not going to have a problem with this, even with this big glass sunroof in it. So yeah, so that's all good. So, to summarise up, it's good. It's typical Audi. Everything's built very well. Everything's relatively easy to use, and its functionality, apart from these dreaded door mirrors, work well. My only thing is this: I would just like to have seen them move the game on. There's no innovation here. It feels like an Audi from 5 years ago, which to all intents and purposes it is. They haven't really changed it, and I can appreciate there's an element of, well, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But Audi have always been quite an innovative company, and I'm surprised that they haven't tried to do something. They haven't tried to kind of move on a little bit and give us something a bit more fresh than this. If you're coming from a previous e-tron, you know, or any other Audi for that matter, none of this is going to scare you at all. But neither is it going to excite you. Now, the big change that Audi have made is battery size. As I say, there's two models. There's a 50, which comes with an 89 kilowatt hour battery. Now that's usable capacity, which is smaller than the old 95 kilowatt hour battery you got on the old e-tron. But Audi say, thanks to different sort of ways that they made up the battery and sort of like more efficient motors and such, they use asynchronous motors now, which have got an extra kind of coil in them. They're just better and more efficient. Audi say that the smaller battery is more efficient and delivers a better range than the old big battery car, if that makes sense. But it would struggle to do worse, if I'm being honest with you. Now this one is a 55, which means it has a usable battery capacity of 106 kilowatt hours. Now according to WLTP figures, that should give a range of well over 340 miles on this sportback car. However, I've been seeing an average of around about 2-point-something miles per kilowatt hour in my time with the car. And given that, on a 106 kilowatt hour battery, that's going to be somewhere around about 230, 240 miles. And it was delivered to me the other day with a full battery, 100%, and it was showing the range to empty it being 240 miles. And as you can see, it's not cold at the moment. Now, I'm not able to do a long trip in this car this week, unfortunately, just with the way things are. This would have been a brilliant car for me to do the drive to Scotland that I've done with other cars, especially the BMW iX and the Jaguar I-Pace. It would have been a brilliant car to take up there and do a comparison with how well I did with it. So I will reserve judgment on that in terms of what Audi say it will do. I'm not seeing it personally at the moment. Anyway, there we go. Right, charging speeds. CCS charging's on this side. You've got your standard Type 2 cable on the other side. It will take charging speeds now up to 170 kilowatts. So it's up 20 kilowatts. The last car was 150. And that means that you will go from your usual 10 to 80% benchmark in one of those fast chargers in 31 minutes. If you're charging it from a 7 kilowatt wall box on this big battery, you're probably going to be looking somewhere between 14 and 15 hours to get a full charge out of it. Obviously they will take an 11, if you've got an 11 kilowatt one, then obviously it will take that and that will reduce that time down a little bit. But otherwise, that's what you're looking at. Now if you plump for the 50, model, not only do you get a smaller battery, you get less power. It's 340 PS, so not a slouch, don't get me wrong. That means you will do the 0 to 60 sprint in around about 6 seconds. So again, perfectly adequate for the style of car that it is. If you go for this 55, the power jumps to 408 PS, and that brings the 0 to 60 time down about half a second to about 5.6 seconds. Now, as I said, there's also the further option of the SQ8, which is over 500 PS, and then that will take another second off that time. But that's only when you're in the sport mode as well. So you've got to it's not quite as clear cut as Audi will make you believe. You've got to be in the sport mode, and I think it only does it for like about 10 seconds. You get the full whack of power as acceleration. But either way, that's still quite quick. But I don't think you need much more than the 50 or the 55, if I'm honest. But I'll reserve judgment until I've driven the SQ8, because there was an element of the old e-tron S that was okay. Right, so how does it drive? Well, it drives pretty much like the old car, if I'm honest with you, which is to say it's very refined, it's very comfortable. You know, you're sitting here, you've got a good driving position. Air suspension is standard, so your air suspension on the vehicle is standard, and in fairness, it rides well, even considering that it's on these big 21-inch alloy wheels. I've not noticed any sort of like real problem when it comes to ride quality in this particular car. In terms of driving dynamics, however, what I will say is, if that's your bag, you'll still want to be visiting a Jaguar showroom, because the I-Pace, despite its age, is still the king of the dynamics as far as I'm concerned. Audi, one of the things I criticised the old car for was its steering. It was quite wooden in feel. It just didn't feel particularly communicative. Audi say they have made some big changes to the steering, and to make it a bit more kind of, you know, have a bit more feel to it for the driver. Yeah, there is. It's night and day. It's okay. As I say, it doesn't make me want to sort of like tell you that the I-Pace should be forgotten about. Let's just say that. Fun enough, there's an I-Pace behind me. So yeah, it is different, but as I say, it's not night and day, and that's kind of where I'm struggling a bit with the new Q8 e-tron. They're all little incremental things that Audi have changed. So it all adds up to not a big thing. It's just all these little things that they've tweaked this and changed that and done that. And that's all very well and good, but all the other competitors have made massive big sea changes in their cars. You know, so like, you know, I haven't driven the EQE yet, you know, but you know, so that's a new car. The iX, I've driven the iX. See, it's not a looker, but it does drive well, considering, you know, what the style of car is. The Jaguar's still the dynamic king, and as I say, we've still got to see more cars coming out into this market space. So this is not, you know, boding well for Audi with this car. I got to keep mentioning these mirrors, these digital door mirrors. They are absolutely woeful. I really struggle with these. Not just manoeuvrability, but just I'm not convinced they give a good enough field of vision. So, I mean, obviously you should check over your shoulder, but you are always constantly checking over your shoulder to make sure that there isn't a car in your blind spot that the camera has failed to pick up. I mean, it does give you little kind of sort of like lit up lines as in, you know, sort of like as and when something is there, but it takes you so long to kind of focus in on that tiny screen. Just stick with the standard mirrors. Don't option these ridiculous things up. They're just dreadful. Driving position, well, that's good. As I said earlier, that is exactly as you'd expect from Audi. The seats are really comfortable. I really like this fabric trim in this car. This like central fabric. I think they call it Dynamica cloth. It's not Alcantara, but it's sort of got some of the qualities of that. It's quite grippy. So if you did decide you wanted to get a bit of a hustle on, then you don't roll around and you don't slide about on a leather seat. It holds you well, and there's just enough lateral support in the seats, and you get good side support in your thighs, and as I say, you can extend the squab. Headrest's in a good position as well, so God forbid you are in some form of an accident, that's going to give you, that's not going to give you any problems where that's mounted. It's good. So that is good. The wheel, as I say, is nice, pleasingly round, falls to hand easily. It's got a nice diameter to it. Yeah, it's a nice wheel to hold. Now the brakes, they've done an intelligent braking system on. Now there's some kind of weird kind of research that they've kind of done on it in terms of, or not research, but they've got some weird stat as to, they'll tell you how often that actually it's using the motor, the regen in the motor, rather than actually the friction brakes, and you can't tell, in fairness. Now in a lot of electric cars, sorry, width restriction, a lot of electric cars, in fact most of them, use the regen of the motor in the first instance, and it's only then when you really stand on the pedal do the friction brakes come in. And some you do feel the takeover, you can feel the difference. Stellantis Group, as I said, have always been bad for that. This I can't tell at all. If you stamp on the brake pedal hard, I wouldn't be able to tell you whether or not it's the motor regen or whether it's the friction brakes. It's got quite a nice pedal feel to it, I quite like it. I'd say the brake pedal's mounted a little bit too, it's not at the same level as the accelerator. You've got to come up quite a bit before you get onto it. So it's not the most comfortable for me, but it's okay. Let's just leave it at that. It's all right. Regeneration, you can adjust that as well. So you can adjust it via the two paddles behind the steering wheel, and you can ramp it on with the left one. Or you can go into an intelligent mode as well, where it is picking up cars in front of me and it will slow the car down. So much like Porsche do with the Taycan, where there's no regen, in other words they want the driver to decide whether or not you should brake or not the car. Audi's got a little bit of a stage further. If there's nothing in front, it will allow it to coast, which is what you want. If there's something there, then obviously it'll start to apply it. Or you can use the paddles yourself if you want to sort of increase or decrease it. What I will say is there's no one pedal driving in it. So whilst there is a relatively strong amount of regen and it's high setting, it's not one pedal driving. But then, is it a loss? I'm not sure, if I'm honest with you. Some people like it, some people don't. You'll have to decide for yourself. It's not something that bothers me per se, so I don't really mind, if I'm honest. Other than that, what we have is an Audi e-tron with another badge on it. I always feel really bad about this, because if we were to take the car as separate it out away from its competition and give it to someone that would just go for a drive in that and tell me what you think, I'm not sure anyone out there would turn around and say that's a bad car. Because it's not. It's not a bad car. It's not a bad car at all. In a lot of ways, it's a very good car. It's very comfortable, it's very refined, it's quiet, it's well built. But then you'd expect that for what is £100,000. But what it isn't is anything different. It's the same as what went before. And I'm just a bit disappointed by that. I really thought Audi would. They used to be a company that really pushed forward on new things, that really showed the way forward and said, this is what we're going to do. And I just kind of feel that they're not being brave enough. And I think they should be. Now, let's talk about price for a second here, because it was never a cheap car, the Audi e-tron. And adding a Q8 badge hasn't changed that. It's still not a cheap car. Now, the range will start, if you go for a smaller battery with the SUV body style, at just under £68,000. And you get a choice of, normally you get a choice of 4 trim levels. You've got Sport, S-Line, Black Edition and Vorsprung. But this is the 5th one, called the Launch Edition car. And in Sportback form, that starts at £97,585. This car's got this really quite nice metallic Chronos grey paint, and with all the delivery charges, that takes it up to £99,095. Now, it's not an S Q8, that's just the Q8 55 e-tron in Launch Edition form. Just shy of 100 grand. Now, that got me thinking a little bit, which is why I've got the iPad here. If you look on a certain used car website that's quite popular, beginning with an A, And if you were to look at an equivalent 3-year-old e-tron Sportback launch edition is selling for, you can easily find one at around about £45,000 to £50,000. So if that is the case, if that was your car and you were trading it into an Audi dealer, and I'm not talking about high mileage here, we're talking about a car that's done maybe 20-something thousand miles over 3 years, if you were trading that into an Audi dealership, they're probably going to be giving you somewhere in the region of about early 40s for that car, maybe £40,000. So it's going to cost you £60,000 to upgrade into a Q8 e-tron, which is essentially the same car as what you had, but might give you a few more miles. That seems like an awful lot of money to me for not an awful lot of difference. So what else might you consider? Well, of course, there's BMW's iX in both 40 and 50 guises, which are going to compete directly with this, but obviously more to do with the sort of like the larger SUV style, body style. BMW don't do that kind of coupe-like style in the iX, like Audi do with the Sportback. Obviously there's Mercedes-Benz. Now the EQC 400 used to be sort of like a rival to that. I'm sure that's going to change soon because they're about to launch the EQE SUV, which is the kind of smaller version of the EQS SUV that we tested a few weeks ago. That's going to be more kind of in terms of its size and price point that's going to be a rival for this car. You still need to consider the Jaguar I-Pace. Now, if you want the dynamic car, the I-Pace is the one to have, if I'm honest. And I know I was just a little bit critical of Audi there, and it comes up the price in terms of how it's not different to a car that was, you know, £40,000. It's the same with I-Pace. If you have a 3-year-old I-Pace and you want a new one, it's still going to cost you sort of like 40 grand to change into an I-Pace. That's not really an awful lot different from what it used to be. But if you're looking at new cars, then the I-Pace is still a car that really you need to consider as well, because in terms of the way it drives, that's the one that drives best even after all these years. And it's not exactly an impractical or exactly an ugly looking car, is it? You can move away from the SUVs as well, because obviously you've got things like the Porsche Taycan in either Sport Turismo or Cross Turismo guys as well. And at this price point, they've got to be considered as well. But right back at the start, I did say there were more manufacturers moving into this space. Now Genesis, the GV70 electrified is probably slightly smaller in terms of its space. It's a bit more BMW iX3 size, but it drives really well and it is quick and it does, okay, you've got to spec it up, but by the time you've got it to the spec of the Audi, it's nearly 80 grand, but that's still 20 grand less than this car, and we know how efficient that the Genesis can be and how good mileage that you do get from it, albeit it is compromised because it's based on a piston engine car. But Hyundai and Kia, two players that are going to be coming into this market space, and you're going to see one of them in our next episode. I can't tell you about it just yet, but our next episode I'm going to show you a car that in terms of large electric SUVs is going to really upset the market space. Trust me on that one. Of course, there's also Lexus. Now Lexus, they've always been a little bit, they've withheld a little bit when going full electric because they still believe, like Toyota do, that there's a world for hybrids, and that's fine. So their actual size of car, the RX, doesn't come with a full electric offering, but there's the RZ450e, and I'm going to be testing that in a few weeks' time. So again, that's got to be considered as well. And as I said, Maserati and Porsche are about to enter the market space as well, with the new Macan and Grecale as well. They're not going to be cheap cars, but of course you've got the prestige of those badges, and they'll be certainly more on the sports side of sports utility vehicle. Now, big announcement a few weeks back before we filmed this was the fact that Tesla are now no longer going to be offering right-hand drive versions of the Tesla Model X, its large SUV. But there is also, if you want to still have that car, you can have it with left-hand drive and save a little bit of money. But I think they've kind of taken themselves out of that market space, if you like. But if you're thinking of performance and you can get away with 5 seats, obviously like most of these cars are, then maybe you'd be considering the Tesla Model Y in its performance guise. Although I don't think it drives quite as well as some of the others in its class, as you know if you're a regular viewer of this channel. But there you go. There's not exactly a scarcity of competition out there for the Audi, especially when you get up towards that 6-figure price tag. So here's what we like and what we don't like about the new Audi Q8 e-tron. We like its quality, its design, its refinement, and it's spacious. We don't like, Well, its price. The interior, whilst built well, feels a little dated in comparison with some newer competition. The efficiency still isn't class leading despite Audi's claims. And the big one for us, it doesn't really move the game forward either for EVs or for Audi itself. Whenever we've had an Audi e-tron on the channel, in terms of the large e-tron, not the Q4 or the e-tron GT, the actual e-tron itself, I've always felt I've been a little bit hard on it, and I've always really tried my hardest to look underneath this, sort of like the depths of it, to find something good to say about it and to find sort of like the real positives with the car. And there is a lot to like about it, and there's a lot to commend it, and there's no difference with this new Q8 e-tron. It is a really nice looking car. It's very, very well built. It's spacious. It's relatively decent to drive. But then that's the way it always has been. And I don't think they've really moved the game on enough with this car. As I say, Audi have played that very cautionary sort of like evolution, not revolution, style with updating the e-tron to the Q8 e-tron, and that I find really, really disappointing. As I say, all the good qualities are still there, but then despite claims, so are a lot of the bad ones. And now there's even more, because now it sort of feels just a little bit out of step with the competition that's out there. Audi used to be real leaders in the way that sort of the automotive world was. I mean, Vorsprung, durch, Technik, you know, sort of like the mantra was progress through technology. And when you look back through history, they really have progressed us through a lot of technology. They sort of like showed how four-wheel drive could be applied to sort of like fast road-based performance cars with huge success. There's the Procon 10 safety system. There was the design classics, that was the C3 variant of the Audi 100 and the B4 variant of the Audi 80, that showed that aerodynamics didn't have to mean like a bland looking car. They were good looking cars, and they really showed a way forward with that. They showed us the original Mark 1 TT, a real brilliant design classic, and one that's going to be a proper future classic in years to come. There's the barnstorming RS6 performance estate car. God, at one time they even made diesel engines performance orientated and almost sexy, dare I say. Which makes it even more disappointing to deliver the verdict that I just feel that the Q8 e-tron isn't enough. Whereas the BMW iX, love or loathe its looks, it feels next generation on. The Q8 e-tron feels like it's last generation and still trading on past glories. Thank you for watching another episode of AutoEV. As always, please remember to make sure that you are subscribed to the AutoEV channel. And then once you've done that, press the bell button that's down below, because then that way you'll be notified of when our next video goes live. If you have enjoyed the video, make sure you do give it a thumbs up, and please by all means do leave us your comments down below. Am I right? Am I delivering the right verdict on this? Have you got one on order? Have you got the old e-tron? Are you looking to change to the new one? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. By all means, if you disagree, let me know. Remember as well, we're across all social media as well, so TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, yeah, across all those. So give us a follow there if you don't mind too, because it all helps us. And if you're just desperate to watch even more of me prattle on about electric cars, then stick on our YouTube channel, because there is now hundreds of videos out there, not just road test reviews, but electric icons, twin tests, used car reviews, van reviews, and even motorbike reviews as well. All that remains for me to say is thank you once again for watching. Thank you for continuing to support AutoEV. I'll see you again soon.